Hello students, welcome back to the session. I hope that you are keeping yourself safe by staying inside. Moreover, I expect that you are also utilizing the time in a very judicious manner. The reason is, the time right now what you are having, this time you will not once again get it. So please don't waste the time. I request you to utilize the time as much as possible. Now, today's session is based on the chapter nuclei. You will come across this chapter in various books as nuclear physics as well. So, whatever it is, we are going to discuss about nuclei. Nucleus, structure of nucleus. So, nucleus is what? If we try to concentrate on the atom, then nucleus is the central core of the atom. Now you are aware of this alpha scattering experiment which was conducted by Rutherford. So Rutherford was able to identify that the core of an atom is a nucleus. That is exactly from the alpha scattering experiment we are able to conclude. Because if you observe closely the scattering of the alpha particles in that gold foil experiment, you will see that there are few alpha particles which are forced to retrace their path. They are not deflecting, they are retracing. Why did the alpha particle retrace? This means that there was some point in the center of the atom where charge density was so high that it repelled the incoming alpha particle. That is exactly how we came across nucleus, and it was termed as the central core of the atom where the charges are concentrated. That is nucleus. Now, the question arises, what is the size of the nucleus? Please see, the nuclear size is of the order of 10 power minus 15 meter. That is said to be Fermi meter or Fermi. That also you can call. While size of the atom is in the angstrom units, 10 power minus 10 meter. That is the order of the size of atom. Now, in the nucleus, what particles are present? What are the constituents of the nucleus? The constituents of the nucleus are known as nucleons. So what are nucleons? Protons and neutrons taken together are nucleons. So the constituent of any nucleus is called nucleon. Now, how to represent any nucleus? Like say X is a nucleus. How to represent a nucleus? The representation of a nucleus is done this way. There is one subscript, there is one superscript. Subscript always represents atomic number. Subscript always represents atomic number. This you can call as number of protons present in the nucleus. This we can call as the number of protons present in the nucleus. Superscript represents the mass number. Mass number is sum of number of protons and number of neutrons present. That can be called as the mass number. That is how we get. Now, once we know how to represent a nucleus, we now know what is the order, what is the size and all. Then the question arises, how to represent the mass of the constituents of the nucleus. See students, the mass of constituents, because constituents are very minute, subatomic as we say. So mass of such substances are represented as atomic mass unit, which you call as AMU, and it is represented by U. So 1 AMU is 1.66 or 1.67, somewhere we use 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. This is what is the relation between AMU and kg mass relationship. That is exactly how the introduction of the nucleus is to be understood. Then comes what are the different types of nuclei. If we talk of type of nuclei, then the question arises, how are we going to classify? The classification of the nuclei depends on what are the constituents which are present in it. That is why we have three types. Isotope. Isotope is where nuclei having same atomic number. They are known as isotope. So atoms with the same atomic number but different mass number are called isotopes. Same way. The next type is where we have mass number is same. So isobar. Isobar means atoms in which mass number is same but the atomic number is different. That is called isobar. And isotone, the next type is called isotone. And isotone is what? Same number of neutrons. See here, A minus Z. This gives you same number of neutrons. All those nuclei atoms in which the number of neutrons are same, they are taken as what is called isotone. So that is exactly how we classify isotones. This is about the introduction of the nuclei. So you must know what is the order of nucleus. When you compare with atoms, what it will be, and then how to represent it, because in the nuclear physics entire thing, this is what we will be using the representation. And finally, what exactly is the measurement of the atom, mass of the atom, that is done in atomic mass unit. Well students, now let us take the properties of the nuclei. First property that we need to discuss is size of nucleus. Now see, size of the nucleus, we have already seen that the order is of Fermi, and Fermi is what? 10 power minus 15 meter. Okay, now very important, when the number of particles inside the nucleus increases, that means if the number of protons increases, the number of neutrons in the nuclei increases, size of the nucleus has to increase. So as the number of nucleons, we have seen nucleons are the constituents of the nucleus. So as the number of nucleons in the nucleus increases, size also increases, it has to increase. So the question arises, what is the rate of increase in size? Is it directly proportional, or is it directly proportional to some power, some index is there? That is why the relation between the radius and the mass, students, this is very important. Relation between its radius and mass number, it is not mass of the atom, mass number. R is proportional to a power 1 by 3. So we can say R is equal to, convert the proportionality into equality, you will get R is equal to R naught into a power 1 by 3. R naught is a constant and its value comes out as 1.2 Fermi. This is exactly what we have as the relationship between the radius and the mass number. Now coming to the next property of the nucleus, that is volume of the nucleus. Now volume of the nucleus, we can write it as V is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. So 4 by 3 pi is a constant, so we will take V is proportional to r cube. But we know R is proportional to a power 1 by 3. So r cube will be proportional to a, therefore volume of the nucleus is directly proportional to mass number. This you have to keep in mind, students. Students, now the next property that we will discuss is mass of the nucleus. See, mass of the nucleus, when we say mass of the nucleus is very, very small when compared, if you try to write it in grams, if you try to write it in kilograms, it will be very, very small. That is the reason why its mass is written in a new unit, different unit, that is atomic mass unit, AMU. And we have seen this, 1 AMU is very small, in kg, 1.66 into 10 power minus 27 kg. So now let us see mass of a nucleus of mass number A. How much will be that? A is the mass number. How many protons are there in the nucleus? And mass of proton, each proton, let us say MP is the mass of each proton, multiply by the mass number. This is what you will get the mass of nucleus. AM, because mass of proton only, we will take it as AMU. So therefore we write it as AAMU. Approximately it is same. So mass of nucleus is directly proportional to mass number. Density of the nucleus. Density is mass by volume, and density will be mass is A times, this is what we have seen. Volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube. We know R is equal to R naught into A power 1 by 3. Use that equation. So what we get, what we see a very interesting expression here. This expression, 3 is a constant. This mass of proton, so I can write it in AMU. 4 pi is a constant, R naught is a constant. This means density of the nucleus is independent of mass number. What does that mean? It means that density of all the elements nucleus will be identical. All the nucleus will be same. It is not dependent on the mass number. And what is the order? The order is 10 power 17 kg per cubic meter. This is exactly what we can say as the density of the nucleus. Well students, the next property is forces acting inside a nucleus. Inside the nucleus, we know there are nucleons. Protons are there, neutrons are there. Protons are charged. So there will be some force between proton-proton. Right? That is electrostatic force of repulsion. So there is electrostatic force of repulsion, Coulombic force of repulsion between two protons. Gravitational force is also there because each proton has some mass. So gravitational force is also between two protons, between two nucleons. But since the mass is very small, that is why the force is weakest force. This force is the weakest force of all the forces which are present. Second is electrostatic force. Just now we saw that this force is present between only charged bodies. Hence, here this force is present only between proton and proton. And since they are proton and proton, so that is exactly what is electrostatic force of repulsion. Nuclear force, the next one is the nuclear force. This is the force which holds the nucleons together to form that nuclei. Because of this force only, the nucleus is existing. And the second thing what we can say is, this is the strongest force. It is able, see there is a electrostatic force of repulsion between proton and proton. But still they are inside the nucleus. This means that the nuclear force is able to overcome the electrostatic force and hold the protons together inside the nucleus. That is exactly why and how we can reason it out that nuclear force is the strongest force. Well students, let us understand the features of nuclear forces. That is, what exactly nuclear forces, what could be the range, how does it affect with the nature of the charge and all. First thing, nuclear force is the strongest force in the nature. Of all the forces that we can think of, gravitational force, electrostatic force, Coulombic forces and all, the strongest force is the nuclear force. Second, nuclear forces work only between nucleons, very important. It works only between nucleons. Like say electrostatic force, we will say it works between charges only. Like that, nuclear forces work between the nucleons only. It's a very short range force. That is very right, because nuclear forces will be, we know size of the nucleus is of the order of Fermi, right? So the distance between the nucleons will be less than that. So it's a very short range. If the range increases, the nuclear forces, its effect diminishes drastically, and after a certain large distance, you will see that its effect is zero. Now the biggest thing very much depends on the distance, as we saw, short range. So we can say it depends on the distance. Small change in the distance will bring a large change in the nature of the nuclear force. But a small change in distance, electrostatic force, very little change happens. But in nuclear forces, it is not like that. A small change in the distance brings about a large change in the nature of the nuclear force. Very important property, independent of charge. Nuclear forces are not dependent on the nature of the charge. They are dependent only on one thing that is called distance between the nucleons. That is what is the major factor in estimating the strength of nuclear force. Well students, now an important topic. This topic is mass defect. Now what is mass defect? It appears that there is some defect in the mass. There is no defect in the mass. There is a difference in the mass. It is to be perceived this way. Mass defect is the difference in the mass. Let us understand how the difference exists. How to estimate that difference. Mass of a nucleus is always less than the sum of the masses of its constituents. What is the meaning? It means if we add the mass of the constituents of a nucleus, that is to say, if we add the mass of protons which are present in it, if we add the mass of the neutrons which are present inside the nucleus, then the measured mass of nucleus will be different. See, if the mass of nucleus is always less than the sum of the mass of its constituents, so the difference, mass defect, can be said as difference between the observed mass and calculated mass. Mass defect is the difference between the observed calculated mass and the observed mass. See, mass of nucleus less than the sum of the masses of its constituents. This is exactly what is the calculated mass. So less, so calculated mass minus observed measured mass is the mass defect. See, if the observed mass of the nucleus be m, mass of proton is mp, mass of neutron is mn. So what is mass defect? How many protons are there in the nucleus? Same as the atomic number. So Z times mass of proton, this is what we get, plus A minus Z mass of neutron, that is the number of neutron. So this gives you mass of the calculated mass of the nucleus. And what it says, observed mass of the nucleus is m. So subtract it. So you will get mass defect. And this mass defect only gets converted to energy, what we find in the nuclear energy, right? Now suppose that instead, suppose in the numericals, instead of giving the mass of the nucleus, they are giving, see here, please concentrate, this is mass of nucleus. Suppose what they do is, they will give mass of the atom. Then how to bring about the changes? When you consider nucleus, then only proton and neutron will be there. But when you consider atom, then electron also has to be considered, because in an atom, outside the nucleus, electron is there, that we all know for charge balancing. So in that case, what is mass defect? Delta M will be Z, atomic number. How many protons are there and how many electrons are there? Equal number, that is why mass of proton plus mass of electron into atomic number will give you the mass of proton and electron, plus A minus Z will give the number of neutron into mass of one neutron. This gives mass of neutron. So I got mass of the atom. From that I am subtracting mass of atom, not nucleus. Then you will get mass defect delta M. So students, you have to concentrate on these two. What is given? Is the mass of the nucleus given? Is the mass of the atom given? And these data, mass of proton, mass of electron, mass of neutron, they are all standard data which will be given to you in the paper. Well students, one more important topic, let us discuss this, because most of the numericals are based on this concept. Binding energy. Now what is binding energy? The word only defines us. Bind, energy required to bind the nucleons together in the nucleus. What is the energy required to bind the nucleons to form a nucleus? That can be called as binding energy. Or energy required to split the nucleus into its constituents, nucleons, to take them so far away that they do not interact with each other. That is also binding energy. Energy required to split the constituents of a nucleus to such a great distance that they do not interact with each other. That energy is said to be the binding energy. Name only suggests, you can make out. Binds. See, proton has no tendency to come closer because like charges will repel. But inside the nucleus, they are together. This means that they were brought closer. So the amount of energy required to bring them closer and bind them in a nucleus, that is called binding energy. So when the nucleus is split, that energy is liberated. That is binding energy. How to calculate it? That is the physical meaning of binding energy. Now numerically, how to calculate binding energy? Binding energy is calculated by using the Einstein's energy mass equivalence relation. So binding energy is delta M into C square. See, this is how the mass defect is getting converted to energy. Now, this binding energy is always positive because delta M is positive and numerically equal to the energy equivalent of mass defect. That is what we have seen. Now, mass defect, see, this equation can be further extended. We can find out how much is the energy required or that can be converted by using mass defect. See, this relationship, we can say what is the energy required. So you can find out this way. Energy from 1 AMU. So 1 AMU, delta M we will say is 1 AMU. So delta M 1 AMU, that is how much? 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. Now, energy will be delta M into C square. So that is 1.66 into 10 raised to minus of 27 into 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. This is exactly how we can find out what is called, this energy will come in terms of 1.66 into 9 into 10 raised to minus 27 and 16. So this gives you minus 11. This will be in joules. Now, This energy, we can convert it into electron volts, that is same as 1.66 into 9 into 10 raised to minus 11 upon 1.6 into 10 power minus 19. This will be in electron volts. Now this comes to 1.66 into 9 into 10 power 8 upon 1.6 million electron, sorry, this is electron volt only. Now if we simplify this, we get this as approximately 931 million electron volts. So what we can conclude? We can conclude that 1 AMU is capable of releasing 931 million electron volts of energy. So we can use this concept here. And this is a concept which we will be using extensively in solving numericals in nuclear physics. 1 AMU, find mass defect in AMU and use this conversion. 1 AMU is 931 million electron volts of energy, and you can convert this into joules also. It's that is also easy. Here you have million, it is 10 power 6, so this is 10 power 8. So when you simplify this, you will get that expression of 931. This is the standard result, we can use it. So students, when you are solving questions related to binding energy, when you are solving question related to mass defect, then instead of multiplying here with c square and generating a complex equation, rather find delta m. First step, find delta m. It will come in atomic mass unit. Second step, 1 AMU is 931 million electron volts, so the given AMU will be equivalent to how much energy. That directly you can use the unitary method for finding the energy released. Now in the question, if it is said find in joules, now you got in million electron volts, convert that into joules. That is what is to be done. That will be easy for you to remember. Well, student, next another important topic that is related to binding energy per nucleon. So this is mass number. So how to calculate binding energy per nucleon? Binding energy, total binding energy divided by the number of nucleons or the mass number. It gives us binding energy per nucleon. Now this is the binding energy per nucleon versus mass number graph. If you see, it is a steep one initially, after that it goes this way, which shows that Fe56, an isotope of iron, has the highest binding energy per nucleon, that is 8.8 million electron volts per nucleon. So see, the value of binding energy per nucleon, we write it this way by the mass number, decides the stability of the nucleus. Greater is the binding energy per nucleon for value for any nucleus, more stable is that nucleus. Remember, greater is the value of binding energy per nucleon for a nucleus, not total binding energy. It is binding energy per nucleon. If more energy is there, means it is more stable. Next most important feature, it is maximum for isotope of iron and it is 8.8 million electron volts, mega electron volts per nucleon. It is the most stable nucleus, that is what we have. It is the most stable nucleus. For the same thing for uranium, the binding energy per nucleon is about 7.7 million electron volts per nucleon, and we say it is unstable, and it is known to us because it is, see, if it is less stable, highest is Fe per nucleon, it is not total. This is exactly how we can make out stability of a nucleus by studying its position on the binding energy per nucleon versus mass number graph.